The Halo universe is filled with wonder, mystery, and fascinating discoveries around every corner. With so much to explore, four friends decided it was about time that they booted up their consoles and discussed this universe that has grabbed their attention since childhood. JumperScape Audio kindly welcomes you to join them in the library.
Hello everybody, welcome back to The Library, the show where we talk about Halo lore, and we're finally back on talking about Halo lore, not psych. No, we're not doing that. We're talking about surrounding lore. It's different. It's almost the same. Hey, Connor141 at checkoutaglitchenergy.com.
CONNOR 141.
Yes.
I'm sure it'll be on the screen on the video, right?
Now it will be.
Hey, I've seen people misspell my name even though it's like right there in the Discord.
That, you know, I'm sorry you've been disrespected that way. If you need me to start
The
banning
peach
people.
tea is really good.
Yes, it is. I'm really happy about it. But I'll be sipping on this because your boy is exhausted and this stuff has been doing wonders. I'm not going to lie. But just a reminder again for those who are tuning in and are used to the usual formula, Patreon, for the reviews and the P.O. Box are not happening on this show anymore. They are moving over to another show that's happening on Thursdays called Get On The Podcast. It had its first episode last week, and it was actually pretty all right. I actually liked it quite a lot.
We didn't get to do video, though.
Yeah, we didn't get to do the video. But this time it will be having a video, and that's what's exciting. That's what we care about.
And I'm here this time.
You are here. You're not just our cat.
Practice round, right?
Exactly. So
sorry guys, ran into some car trouble.
it's fine.
It was passed along to me.
But today we've got some fun stuff to talk about because, like I said, we're not talking about lore. We're talking about surrounding stuff. The lore of, let's say, the developers themselves. Bungo.
Bungie.
Big fan of Bungle Studios. So the reason why I wanted to talk about this stuff is primarily because of the sheer significant amount of people saying like Bungie was this just perfect studio. Everything with Halo was perfect.
Nope.
Everything happening behind the scenes was perfect. They might have been struggling a little bit, but it's still perfect. The developers were perfect. The reason why 343 didn't invite them to join their studio is because Bungie was just too good. No, pretty much none of that is true.
That's a real thing that I've heard.
Yep.
People say.
But it's not true.
You can't join our company. You're just too talented.
Yeah, you know too much about the universe that you created yourself. No. No, people like Paul Russell have already come out and stated things such as Bungie is filled with people that were too headstrong at the time. And many people, including Marty O'Donnell especially, we'll start it off this way. Marty O'Donnell's introduction into Bungie Studios. So picture this. You're in Chicago. You're off to a bad start. And
Oh no.
Marty walks into your studio. And everyone agrees he's the most professional person in the room. You're off to an even worse start. Bungie was known for showing up to meetings in not even business casual. We're talking like what we are dressed as right now, just showing up to meetings like
They
this.
like to have fun there.
Their office was a mess.
I went
Horrible.
to work in this today.
It's not standard. Their office was a mess. Their communication was bad. And pretty much Marty stated that it felt like a father coming back home to his kids trashing the house. And he had been the most professional person in the room dressed in business casual. And everyone agreed with him. All of the Bungie employees were like, yeah, that's Joe Staten especially was like, yep, that was right. That's how it was. And that's what made them.
I knew that was going to happen. I was waiting. I was like, oh, the fries can't hold down that paper forever.
Shane brought on some Mickey D's onto the set and met with some fan problems. But so pretty much Bungie ran into this issue pretty often where companies would approach them and they would try to have meetings with people and they were able to have them, but they were just not the sort of professionalness that people were looking for. And that actually caught the attention of people like Steve Jobs and Microsoft and as a whole. Because when Steve Jobs first reached out, this was way after. If I could say a list real quick, which, guys, we're already off to a good start. We haven't gone off track one time. This is really good news.
All right, we're doing
Immediately looks at phone.
I have to look at the list.
Oh, I thought it came with a notification, so I was like,
it's kind of funny. Yeah, I actually need to turn my phone on Do Not Disturb. Too many people text me for all this. Hey, our calendar project is finished. Just a little bit of a note, and that calendar project just got featured on the Halo Spotlight. Speaking of things that we do, me and Shane are repping. You're repping just a thing that they can't buy.
sorry, you can't buy this one.
But Shane's wearing his Noble Legend
official crew attire.
Yeah. Shane's wearing his Noble Legend tank. How's it feeling?
It feels tanky.
Sorry.
Okay.
I could run out and grab the jacket.
No, it's okay. It's okay. And then this year's I love this one so much. The Many Moods, as it's titled. It's a bunch of superintendents. It's so cute. It's so nice. There's even ones that we created. This guy right here and this guy up here don't exist. But they do in our hearts and now on your chest.
Yay.
So, JumperScape.com if you want to see any of that stuff. But you guys are going to like the list of games because I was thinking about this. I'm like, Bungie seemed to drop out of Halo rather quick. It was only 10 years, right? So, like, why would they drop out of that idea so quick? Then you look at their history. And you're like, oh, they've been doing this since 1990. And they are known for jumping from title to title.
I didn't know they were around for that long.
Their first game, all right? Alex Seropian and Jason Jones. I'm pretty sure it was Jason Jones worked on this. Alex Seropian is the founder of Bungie, and he's super cool, and he runs his own podcast called The Fourth Curtain, I think, with another developer.
As opposed to the third?
Yes.
Second?
Yes. The first is especially off limits. But Alex Seropian is a great guy to hear talk, so I just listen to that podcast all the time. But they made this game together. It's called Nop with an exclamation point. It's Pong backwards. It was a Pong clone. The way they made money off of it, it was a free game. The way they made money off of it was they would sell you the source code for $15. That was it. So great, off to a great start. The Halo developers made a Pong clone called Nop. Then they moved on to something called Operation Desert Storm. I didn't look into it, but it sounds fun. It seems like it was on topic. Then there was Minotaur, the Labyrinths of Crete, followed by Pathways into Darkness. Pathways into Darkness was supposed to be a sequel to Minotaur, but it ended up being its own thing. And then they struck like a little bit of gold with a little tiny game called Marathon, which only like slightly influenced the entirety of their development going forward on all of their games after that.
Yet still, none of these sound familiar to me yet.
Yeah. Well, Marathon 2, Durandal, and Marathon Infinity all released to very, very much critical acclaim, and they are still popular to this very day, getting re-releases on Steam recently that you can get for free right now.
Huh.
So they are fantastic, and Halo constantly makes references to Marathon.
Marathon, I've never played or even watched anyone play Marathon. Isn't it a Doom-like shooter?
And it's really good as a Doom-like. It's
Got it.
really good. The story is fantastic. There's a lot of timey-wimey things going on in there. It's really interesting stuff. But the primary appeal to it for Halo fans is how much of Halo is built up by Marathon's existence.
Check that out.
The first thing you'll ever notice is that in the Halo logo, I'm pretty sure it's there in the Halo logo. At the very least, it's on the side of the Pillar of Autumn and on Captain Keyes' chest. The Marathon logo is there. So the Marathon logo being there and at the very start and constant Marathon references from then on until 343 took over, then yeah, it's been there. And Bungie continues to make references to it in Destiny, but now they're just like, well, let's make a really, really cool niche reference and just make a new game called Marathon. But I want to talk about that on Get On a little bit because I'm not happy about it.
Yeah.
It's not. I was excited. I was thinking, oh my gosh, story-driven campaign from Bungie again. I'm so excited. It's a looter shooter, kind of. It's like Escape from Tarkov. It's not looter shooter, whatever that's called. Scavenge game. I don't know.
Torture.
Yeah. Especially with the setting being so cool and Marathon being one of the coolest sci-fi settings.
Extraction.
There you go.
There it
Extraction
is.
game.
Yeah.
That's the name. I was like, it has a name. Like
Which
it
is
has a
Extraction shooter.
thing. Yes.
Yeah.
It's so dull. But then they had Weekend Warrior, Abuse, Myth, The Fallen Lords, and Myth 2, Soulblighter. Myth and Myth 2 were both, again, really big popular games from Bungie. They were real-time strategy games. And Myth 2 was part of the reason why they needed a blockbuster game to be released to make money, because they had to lose $1 million because Myth 2 did this really cool thing where if you tried to uninstall it, it would actually just wipe your hard drive, including your OS.
All right.
How did they do
You're
that?
keeping the game whether you like it or not.
How do you manage that?
And think of how many
mess up?
people like back then, like think of how many people just didn't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because it's not like now where like it happens to one person and it's all over Twitter, like, or X.
With $1 million of reimbursement, yeah, a lot of people fell to that one. This is during the time when games were still floppy disks, my guy. No one was saving them. So that wasn't happening. Then they dropped another game called Oni. I really want to play it. It's not based off of the Office of Naval Intelligence. It's just called Oni.
It's about like Japanese demons.
No, it's a third-person sci-fi beat 'em up.
Oh,
So not even close.
The character's name is Oni.
lame.
Yeah. And then they dropped a little game called Halo Combat Evolved, and then they dropped all the other Halos after that.
I've heard of those.
And then there's this one tiny little bit in 2011. They dropped a game called Crimson Steam Pirates,
Huh?
but they didn't make it. They published it to support an indie studio called Harebrained Schemes.
Yeah, and then they did
Harebrained
Destiny.
schemes.
And then they did Destiny, and that's all they've done since. And Jason Jones has gone into hiding, reasonably so. Bungie is in an interesting state there, but we'll get to that eventually. For now, we're talking about its pure raw origin. The origin really of them coming up with the concept of Halo and how it was made. Combat Evolved was basically made in a year, is an important thing to know. They were talking about it in the late 90s, but they didn't have an idea for it on what it was. At first, it was an RTS. Most people know that. It was an RTS that had some sci-fi elements, and it was still the humans versus the Covenant, but it wasn't called the Covenant yet. It was just aliens. So humans versus aliens, and you would fight each other, and this was being done by a small team while everyone else was working on Myth. And Marty was one of the first ones to see the game, and he was interested in it because of the fact that this game, for those Halo Wars fans out there, you'll know why this is really fun. This was the first time that we saw an RTS where vehicles were physically interacting with the environment around them rather than just, sort of sliding across the ground and tracking perfectly with the ground. These were vehicles that were being affected by physics, being able to throw themselves around. You could still direct them. Basically what ended up happening with Halo Wars. And that was where Halo was originally going to start. But then the Warthog happened. They made the Warthog. Gentlemen, how often have you spent in Halo just driving that thing around?
Probably a good bit.
Probably a good bit, but not as much as everyone else.
Yeah, nowhere near as much as you guys, but I enjoy it here and there.
I don't like driving.
Oh, man.
I don't like driving in video games most of the time.
Okay, well,
I will be a passenger and I will go on my phone.
Well,
You're
out
missing
of
out.
the Warthogs that you have driven, which of these Warthogs do you think feels the best out of all of them?
I feel like you're leading me to say Combat Evolved.
I mean, you could say that if you wanted to be right.
Interesting.
I was going to say Halo 3.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't actually. Your answer could be your answer. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because the Warthog is carrying a lot of significance. Before Combat Evolved was even a concept, before it was even called Halo, they were kind of leaning closer and closer towards the third-person camera and controlling this Warthog yourself. And as they got more and more time spent just driving this thing, they spent hours driving it, just driving it around, banking it, making it do neat tricks. And they were like, I want to be closer to the action. I want to be closer and closer. And the camera just slowly got closer and closer and closer and closer until it was a first-person game. And then from there, they were like, we need to make this a first-person sci-fi shooter. This is a great idea. We have open world. Like, vehicles in open world does not happen in these kind of games. And then Halo. So Warthog is 100% to blame, and we're okay with that. This was around the time also when the game had had the really fun project name that for some reason I thought it was more well known, but there's a lot of people that actually for some reason still don't know about it, and it was called Monkey Nuts.
No, and I didn't know that.
Monkey Nuts.
It was called Monkey Nuts for a week. And then Jason Jones was worried that his mom would find out. And she didn't want
did she find out?
He didn't want her knowing that he was working on a game called Monkey Nuts.
Oh, I mean, that's a tough one to explain. So, I mean,
Yeah. So he
This
switched.
really is just a merry band of 90s early adults.
They had so much fun in that studio, it seems. They were grinding to the core.
name it Monkey Nuts. What if my mom finds out?
And so Jason Jones renamed it to Blam with an exclamation point. And that was the title for pretty much any time you had something that happened with like an error, you would get a Blam error. If you tried to name a project like a map or a game type in Halo 3 especially with something that was vulgar, it would autocorrect it to Blam. It was just something that became an inside joke. And it was absolutely hilarious to find out about. But then things started to move forward a little bit beyond that, where we're coming up on like probably 6 to 8 months before the game has to come out. They've already talked with Apple. Steve Jobs was like, okay, show me what you guys are working on. And he's known in this moment to be eating a fudge sickle while he's talking to them. It's important to note that because they noted it in their interviews.
okay.
Yeah,
He
Steve Jobs, he was eating a fudgesicle.
He
I
walked
haven't
one
had a
does.
fudgesicle in so long. They're so good.
He walked
Like,
in.
They still make those?
He walked in. Yes.
Yes, they do.
Yes.
I used to have them all the time. They used to be like a fixture in my house.
They're in the popsicle section.
and
You can still
now
get them.
I just don't get. I just really don't get them.
See, mine is always those Sunday cones. I love those things. The one with the nuts on them.
What are those called? Drumsticks.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He was having a little bit of conniption there. He was having a
I was
problem.
freaking out. I was like, it's an obvious answer.
But Steve Jobs walks in, fudge pop in hand, and is like, show me what you're working on here. Just sits down. It's only, as far as I can remember, Jason Jones or Alex Seropian and one other guy. And they're just showing off the game. They're showing off the exterior and all that. And he's like, Pixar can render 12 suns. So what's special about this? And Jason looks him dead in the eyes like, can they do it in real time? And he's like, you're on. And then walks out. It's noted he took one more bite of his fudge pop before he walked out. They said that.
I want to see this whole time. I'm imagining he has a fudgesicle mustache that he's not aware of as well.
Show me what you're working on.
I
What are we
honestly,
working on here, guys?
honestly,
Wow.
Steve did carry that energy. He was just that kind of guy. Miss him greatly. He was a visionary.
A visionary.
Yes.
Yeah.
What flavor is that?
And you
again?
go like this.
That's peach tea.
Can I try it?
Yes.
I'm curious.
So after that happened, the Macworld event happens. The Macworld event happens. Macworld event is huge. It's basically showing off. It has no sound because the game didn't work yet. The sound engine wasn't ready. So Marty had to come up with the Halo theme in about 2 days.
Okay.
And so that whole Halo Combat Evolved theme finished in 2 days. And from start to finish, it's Marty singing. Even when later on, there's this voice that everyone is like, oh, who's that girl that's singing? Marty's like, that's me.
I'm that girl.
He pitched himself up and added a little bit of a different twang to it. And so it came off. It was very, that's him.
Oh, that's Marty?
That's Marty.
That's crazy.
Yeah, he was really effective at making whatever it is he had. I mean, he had to make the entirety of the Halo Combat Evolved soundtrack in Halo 2 with no orchestra. Halo 3 was the first one that had a full orchestra. So he had to do all of this in like a digital audio workspace with fake instruments and just his own voice. And that's all he had to work with. The rest of it was just he got to help out with cutscenes, he got to help with gameplay, he got to help with audio design. He touched a lot of parts of Halo.
And it's weird when you listen to it, you can tell.
Mhm.
You know, if you're listening for it, you're like, oh wait, none of these are real instruments.
Yeah.
This is all synthesized. But it kind of works.
Yeah.
For Halo. Granted, I do prefer the orchestral like versions, like from a musical standpoint.
Yeah.
Like the anniversary versions are all like actually orchestral.
Yeah, that's
good stuff. But there's something nostalgic about that early 2000s synthesizer sound.
It's just pretty, especially like the undercover of Night track.
Yes. Just like that.
Yes. And so when Marty was all finished up with that stuff and he was making all of this happen, this was around the same time when Halo was now out of Macworld and Steve was sold and everything. But then Ed Freeze came in and pretty much told everybody that well, not everybody, but Jason Jones specifically, that Microsoft was interested in acquiring them because Xbox was a thing, which it's confusing how you could possibly compete with someone like PlayStation or Nintendo or Sega. They were killing it. But Xbox was looking for a mascot because Sega has Sonic. Sony has Crash. Nintendo, obviously, Luigi. So,
Who?
so Xbox is out here looking for a mascot. And one of the best choices currently available is this little green dude that wears some cool
jumpy
armor.
green guy
Who
named
did-
John,
He didn't have a name yet, so he really was
named
just that.
Halo.
Named Halo.
Mr. Halo.
John Halo.
And so
He doesn't afraid of anything.
and so they had to get this thing ready. They had to be ready for E3 the very next year. So they were revamping the whole thing, changing up the armor, working on that demo that people have seen before that has the same thing happening as that whole, the NVIDIA GeForce 2 GTS. Like I can still do that whole thing off of memory, by the way. The whole thing flat. So they had to get this thing ready. And by the time Macworld came and went, things were already moving pretty smoothly. Steve Jobs wasn't very happy about the fact that they were just kind of taking Halo from them, but Microsoft makes Microsoft money, and Bungie was worried about going bankrupt trying to develop this game. So they had to work on developing a whole new cash flow. They had to work on coming up with new agreements, and that included getting acquired by Microsoft. And so
Apple wasn't making Apple money yet.
no, that only showed up like in the post-mortem phase. I miss him so much.
I was gonna say the iPhone days.
Yeah,
he
but
was there for that.
the start. Yeah,
Yeah.
he would weep these days.
He would weep.
Like, yeah, glad I passed up on that.
so Halo is going along rather well. Development is going along. They're crunching super hard, but that's just because that's how it went. They needed cutscenes for all these moments in gameplay, which they had to cut so many campaign missions. There was actually a whole campaign mission dedicated to revealing the name of the Covenant, the name of the Halo, the fact that the Covenant is religious, but instead you get that whole thing of Keys just being like, I overheard the alien guards speaking in alien language about this thing they call Halo.
If they were speaking in an alien language, how did you understand them?
They
I overheard the guard.
I heard the word Halo come up multiple times.
Did they ever? I think we've talked about this before. Did they ever come up with a reason that he understood the guards?
No.
I was legitimately asking a question. I was not making a joke. I
Well,
wanted
I'm
to know how he
serious.
knew. I wanted to know how he
They
knew.
never came up with it because the majority of what Halo is, probably one of the most hilarious moments of the interview, not the interview, but the commentary they did, where Jason Jones, Joe Staten, and Marty are all in the same room. Marty is like, Jason, why are the warthogs so big? Look at how big Johnson is in comparison to that thing. And Jason's like, because it's cool. That's most of the reason why most things happen in Halo during the
Yeah.
Bungie era. Which,
It's cool.
it worked. So
Rule of cool.
take notes because the rule of cool can still apply in a world dedicated to lore. I'm just saying. Anyway, so they have to get these things all taken care of. And Joe Staten rapidly produces 33 cutscenes, which is hard in that day and age because you have to do something like something as simple these days as something like a handshake. In the second cutscene of Halo, where Captain Keyes and Chief have a handshake, that handshake was really difficult to animate. You have to move these guys pixel by pixel until they're close enough that the actual animation locks. Cortana being transparent on top of a transparent screen right behind her created artifacts that were bad. The Pillar of Autumn doesn't even move in any of the cutscenes. It's just the camera moving in the right way that makes it look like it's moving. Like that's just the thing. There's a visual artifact still in the game where you can see the edge of the Halo matte painting on the left when the pod is approaching the surface. They ran into all sorts of problems. And that was the fundamental thing about Bungie was they didn't care about the problems. They just wanted to make something cool. And they did. And so when they got the cutscenes ready, they had 33 cutscenes that Marty had to put audio to. And this was just one of his many, many roles within the team because Marty touched pretty much everything. And so he had to put audio to 33 different cutscenes. On September 10th, 2001, he got 11 cutscenes done. This is good. We have 3 days to put these out. So we just need to get it done the next day and the day after that. And we'll have all 33 cutscenes ready to go. September 11th comes around.
That's the bad day.
That's the bad day. It was an unfortunate day in history, and we very much regret that it took place. But it is really, really funny timing.
Never forget.
So, 22 cutscenes to go, and the whole studio is there, and Marty has to call the studio and be like, "What are you guys doing there?" And they're like, "We're working." And he's like, "Look at your news screens. Go home." And so that's like one of the most significant hiccups that they ran into, aside from the fact that the entirety of Halo Combat Evolved's development was just not the best.
It's okay. They still have Halo 2 to make it better, right?
We'll get there. So, Combat Evolved rounded out its development with not just their multiplayer being completely revamped and having to have it ready just a month beforehand, which Max Roberman can be credited with actually making that happen, despite the severe challenge of having to rebuild the whole multiplayer in just a couple months, which he went on to make certain Affinity. So obviously he knows what he's doing. And I think I'm pretty sure he's still the CEO of that company anyway. So he still knows what he's doing. But the biggest problem that they ran into, the strongest challenge, was that of Microsoft themselves. They were insufferable for a very long time because Ed Freeze was on their side. He was the guy that got the Halo 2 tattoo on his arm.
Yes.
He got the release date on his arm. It was fun. He was in their corner. He was not a higher up at Microsoft, but he was respected and basically the liaison between the two. And they didn't quite understand how Bungie worked. And so when they saw that Bungie was not interacting very well with Microsoft, Bungie was so solo. When they moved over to Seattle, they made it so the fob keys did not work for Microsoft employees. They would not interact with the normal employee circles, because normally what you would do in the Microsoft circle is in Microsoft's companies, they love to organize. So like all of the artists are over here. All of the creative directors are over here. All of the level guys are over here. Doesn't matter what studio you're in. All of the studios have all of their particular people in the same room so they can collaborate and talk to each other. Bungie hated that. They were like, we work best together. We want to be in the same room. And so they gave the middle finger to Microsoft on numerous occasions about that. And one of those moments that they had to be careful about, they had to figure out the name. And the name of the game was going to be just Halo. Paul Russell came up with the idea. Originally, it was going to be called Covenant, but Paul Russell out loud said, "That's a dumb name. Let's call it Halo."
Hey there, Halo fans. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with our friends right after these messages.
And Microsoft was like, "That's so dumb. It could be tied to religious things. It's boring in like every language ever. It's in the feminine. Like, it's not going to carry on this strength of Master Chief and his armor and the warfare and all of that. It doesn't make it. Add Combat Evolved to it." And Paul Russell's like, "That doesn't even make grammatical sense." But they had to anyway. And now we just kind of call it Halo. There's some people that call it CE or Combat Evolved, but if you're in the right circle, people will know what you talk about when you're talking just, yeah, I love Halo. Halo is one of my favorite games. In the right circles. Everyone else is going to be like, well, yeah, it's a whole franchise.
I'm saying I'm in that circle.
Yes.
Someone goes, "Oh, I love Halo," and I'm like, "Oh, great. What's
which
your favorite one?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
I'll ask which one.
Halo.
this has the same energy as people going like, "Yes, I'll have a Coke." Well, what kind? Sprite?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that checks. But that's pretty much the whole story in a very condensed format. If you want some better details or if you want to find out more, then you feel free to message me in the Discord, discord.gg/JumperScape. I'll be happy to give you all of the resources you want there. And otherwise, there is more to talk about. There will be more story to come. But for now, we have other stories that we need to tell first, including the start of 343 Industries next week. So before we wrap up, though, Q&A time.
I like the Q&As.
But were there any particular stories from Bungie's time starting out with Halo that you guys know of that were like, oh gosh, why would they do that? Because I always think of them sleeping underneath their office desks.
During the development of Halo 2. Is that when that was, or was that just in general?
In general.
Oh, okay.
But they did
I know
do
it got really bad
especially a
during
lot in Halo 2.
That's the one thing I know about
They did it a
Bungie
lot.
is just Halo 2 was in developmental hell.
Their work ethic was insane.
I love that they didn't learn any lessons from CE and made all the same mistakes when making Halo 2.
They had to cut so much.
They basically had to make a whole new game a year out from launch, you know. Wish they experienced that before.
Have you guys tried
Oh, wait, they did.
Have you guys tried the dig site content yet?
No.
You should. It's pretty much the dig site team, for those of you who don't know. And 343 is collaborating with a bunch of modders and old developers at Bungie to uncover lost files. And what we have so far, we have the original 2000 E3 demo that you can just play.
That's awesome.
It's really cool.
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah. It's fully playable, explorable, massive open world. There's nothing in it, but it's there. But for now, that's Bungie. That's Bungle. That's
Bungie.
Bungo.
Bingo.
So now we're going over to our Discord for our Q&A sesh. We are over in discord.gg/JumperScape, like I said. And the first one comes from Austin's Ungoy stepchild. If one were to get a JumperScape tattoo, would they get free shit?
I feel like we'd have to.
I would need to. That would be utterly important.
Yes, we would have to.
You would need to send proof, and I would very much hope that you put it in somewhere that's not embarrassing so you can actually share it.
Just in case, put it somewhere hideable. Don't make it a forearm.
Because listen, man, tomorrow Microsoft could be like, y'all are cringe, and just get rid of us.
Yeah, I was gonna say we could literally have, like, if they wanted to go full blown Activision, they could tell us to stop what we're currently doing.
Yeah.
For no reason.
It'll be fun to try to legally dodge that. Slap Nuts asks, what's your favorite TV show that you watched growing up? Like,
Growing up.
are we talking like children? Because I'll tell you my favorite child, because that's the thing. Children and teens are two different show things. So favorite child show.
Cartoon was. I mean, if we're talking like child show, like educate, like something like Dora, or do you mean just like a cartoon?
Whatever.
What was your
let's-
favorite
let's
growing
say-
up? Let's say
sub 10.
sub 10.
Sub 10.
Backyard Again's final answer.
That's so far.
Brother.
Oh, no.
I really messed with the Wiggles back in the day.
Oh,
I hate that Ashton keeps sending me Wiggles TikToks.
I very much like the psychosocial fruit salad combo.
I feel way too far ahead with my answer.
time and I want out.
Here's the thing. I grew up. I was a SpongeBob kid. Like that was. I had SpongeBob T-shirts.
Oh yeah, you were allowed to watch it.
Like, yeah.
It wasn't just that. It's that I didn't find it funny.
You weren't
Okay.
allowed to watch it.
I also wasn't allowed to watch it, but I'd seen clips on YouTube and I didn't like it.
Cringe.
Well, it's the thing. I watched it when YouTube didn't exist.
SpongeBob seasons 1 through 4 was like a generational run of cartoons.
I don't doubt that it was a good
Gold.
show.
It was
just wasn't-
amazing. It was
wasn't
one of the
something
best.
that my kid me liked.
Cringe.
And then if I had to go even further, like actually picking a little kid show, like you guys, it was Blue's Clues. I loved Blue's Clues.
I also
Okay.
like Blue's Clues.
Steve or Joe?
Steve.
Easy question. I
He
know.
made that when he made that. Did you watch that goodbye or that?
Here's the thing.
I sobbed.
I
cried. It made me cry.
I cried watching him like be like, "Oh, you're all grown up."
Yeah, I'm like,
but
have you not
Yeah,
watched
I
that?
watched
oh,
that,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
But when Steve went to college, kid me was in shambles. Okay,
No,
when
no,
Joe walked in, he
was
was like,
an
"I'm
op.
Joe."
Joe was an op.
I was
Like,
like, you don't belong. He's like, Steve likes stripes. I like squares. Like I'm like,
You are a square.
ugly.
when I was a kid, somewhere buried, so I was blue for Halloween.
Aw,
Somewhere there's a picture of me as blue, and I had
did you know Blue was a girl?
Don't think so. My father was. I remember my father not being too pleased, but my mom was like, "Let him go as whatever he wants." And
There's a picture.
come
There's
to
a
think of
glamour
it,
shot.
come to think of it, I don't think my dad went trick or treating with me that year. I think my mom went with me.
There is somewhere in my house a glamour shot, straight up at the mall, a glamour shot of me going as Sully for Halloween.
A glamour shot.
Yeah, I'm literally like, everything.
That's nuts.
I had a.
I'm gonna try and find it when I go home.
I
just
had
so
a-
you guys can
I had
see
a
it.
Steve. I had an inflatable chair that like the big red chair.
I had the thinking chair.
Yeah, we both had. I remember you told me you had it.
I
Yeah,
remember
had one.
that Christmas, I kept asking my dad to blow it up for me because it was inflatable. And
Yeah,
I just remember I kept asking him like 10
Oh, he probably got
10
pissed.
minutes after like we were done opening presents. Can you blow this up? Can you blow this up? 5 minutes later, can you blow this up? And eventually he's just like, no, like
Leave me alone. No, me and
I
my
was not verbally abused by my father. All
right, we should move on.
Before we do,
I just had to
name
make
kids
it,
I was
next
to say,
door
Connor did
Oh,
not
yeah,
answer.
and Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends.
That's like you're fast forwarding like a good 6-7 years.
That is- yeah,
Those are my
Foster.
cartoons that I watched because I jumped to the
Codename
military
Kids
channel,
Next-
history channel, science channel. I was still a kid, all right?
Codename works, but I will agree. I was a History Channel kid primarily.
Yeah, I went to like the military channel. Future Weapons was my back in the
Dog
day.
fights.
There was
I
there was
liked
an
Pawn Stars like a weirdo.
no,
Pawn
Pawn
Stars
Stars was
good.
great.
Pawn Stars was hard.
I know, I agree. Don't get me wrong.
Then what do you mean like a
What do you
weirdo?
mean?
Because I was a kid.
Who cares?
I was a kid,
I was a
and
kid
like
too.
Pawn
Now
Stars.
hold on, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Slapnuts asks,
Now we can move on.
which Halo vehicle would be the best to booze cruise in? I'm saying the chopper immediately because you could just plow through things.
Oh, that's a good answer.
Banshee final answer.
The man.
I know it probably doesn't control like a traditional vehicle, but I'm going with a Scarab. I want to
James just sends a message
drive
to
a
us.
Scarab.
You
James
know,
just messaged
you don't have to
hey,
worry
come
about
outside. I got a new
crashing."
whip. We go outside, just a leg just lands in front of us. We're like,
Get in, guys.
New cannon. That I always thought that Scarab in Metropolis in Halo 2 was driving a little funky and just stepping on things willy-nilly.
It's
That was
James.
him.
It was
That was
James.
him.
Hi. It was me.
The Covenant Chill himself.
A mantis.
A mantis.
Could you imagine a mantis drunk walking?
Stumbling. Trips on something.
I'm gonna
fires,
get you.
fires around off into a building as he's tripping.
Oh man, that's the orphanage.
James, what is wrong with you today?
I'm being Connor.
What
do you mean?
Lactating Chainsword asks, I'm guessing this is a Super Space Marine 2 thing for the name there. Got a fun question. Who won the epic rap battle between Master Chief and Leonidas?
Oh, that's an
Ooh.
old one.
Master Chief.
Master Chief, even my initial spell, MC.
It's
give,
Master Chief.
Give more tea bags than
So
Lipton.
fast. Cortana says you're Greek.
Give more tea bags than Lipton.
Give more tea bags
That's
than
one
Lipton.
that one has stayed in my brain for years.
I forgot that even happened. I
It's
forgot about
so
that whole
good.
series.
It's so good, dude. Be careful going back through it. It will be in your recommended for half a year.
Yeah, I bet.
You know they
Are-
tour.
They do?
Yeah.
Are they
I'm
still
not shocked.
going? Like making?
Oh
new
yeah,
characters?
they at least they have to keep active because the ones that they do off of the elections are always super popular, and the one who goes first always loses the election. Every time, whoever goes first loses the election. It has not failed.
Oh God.
And they've been going since like 2008 at least.
Yeah.
With Mitt Romney versus Obama.
Oh, that was okay. So no Obama versus John McCain epic rap battle of history.
Just Mitt Romney and Obama. Mitt Romney went first and he lost.
Did they have a John McCain at one point?
No.
Oh.
Then you had Hillary versus Trump. Hillary went first, she lost, and then Trump versus Biden, and Trump went first and he lost. So basically, I watch epic rap battles, wait for someone to talk, and I'm like, "You lost."
You
Sorry,
lost.
buddy. So it's
Fun.
wild. He also asks, "What's your favorite epic rap battles of history?"
Mine was the one with all the Russians. I loved it. It was a Stalin versus.
You want to mess with
me? I speak
Albert Einstein, Stephen Hawking.
I'll be the one to say Adolf Hitler versus Darth Vader.
It's a
No, it
classic.
goes hard.
It's a classic.
I'll be the one to say it.
Both are classics.
I'll be the one to say it.
Also dope on the mic.
We gotta stop. We gotta stop.
Mine, I'm not gonna lie, the Joker versus Pennywise is just clean. Plus, it's super long, so they have plenty of bars.
Going back to that sound bite that we are gonna sing again.
That's gonna get clipped.
Remember when like all the Kanye stuff was happening and people were just putting that over concert footage?
Yes.
It's like, whoa, this new Kanye set kind of weird.
We got 2 more to go. Captain America or Iron Man, asks Slip. Captain
Here's
America.
the thing. At the time of watching, I was Team Cap. In hindsight, I think I'm Team Iron Man.
I'm going Iron Man all the way.
I'm talking Team
Okay,
Cap.
look. Think of it this way. Your buddy, just knew that his best friend killed your parents, didn't tell you, and then they start beating the shit out of you.
Alternate perspective. Captain America is protecting his best friend from sometimes a little bit of a sociopathic rich guy who will go off on a dime with no real cause because he's got PTSD. And he is worried about his friend getting killed by this billionaire.
I thought we were just talking about like in a general fight.
Also, like, aren't we forgetting that the whole initial fight was started by the Sokovia Accords?
Very much so. Thank you, Ashton, from Moon 237, streaming on Fridays.
Great plug. Okay.
Thanks.
And that's the thing. I kind of like understand the Accords existing.
I don't. As soon as the Accords came in, superheroes and supervillains just went out of control.
Yeah.
If the Avengers were left to their own devices, they probably could have stopped a whole lot of problems way early.
So many. They continued to solve problems that the government would have just like running amok. I feel like.
Shane, you never answered. Let's put you on the spotlight.
Deadpool.
This is the most cringe answer it could have gotten. Man, now I have NSYNC in my head. All right, anyway. Last question from Face McShooty. Who would win in a shooting competition? Spartan Linda or Turkey's Olympic medalist Yusuf Dickhead?
As soon as I heard turkeys, I knew.
Yusuf just carries that energy.
The aura.
Linda might have hung upside down from a cable, sniping people out of Banshees, one arm. It's not nearly as cool as just standing there with your hand in your pocket. Just
Yeah, she did do it with her hand in her pocket.
I wish that those were real guns, though. I'm not gonna lie, because the fact that they're air pistols kind of takes a little bit of the oomph away from me.
It makes it harder.
The skeet shooting competition is really fun to watch, though, because the Americans kill it every time.
That's not a surprise.
It's awesome. But with that being said, that is the library. Thank you guys for joining us here today. I hope you guys learned something new. If you didn't, you probably already knew it. So good job, honestly. Just pat yourself on the back for knowing that stuff. That's all you got to do, Discord.gg/JumperScape if you want to join the community. If you want to support us directly, that's patreon.com/JumperScape. And if you want to greenlight a show, that is ko-fi.com/JumperScape. Again, if you would like to get your hands on some of this nice stuff, you just go to glitchenergy.com, Connor141 at checkout. It'll pop up at the bottom. You can go ahead.
Yep, and it's CONNOR 141 for the code.
We will one day have everyone know it's not with an E.
They're going to purposely do it. I'm calling.
Well, if they do that, they don't get the discount, so it's fine.
Okay. Well, in the Discord, but I won't answer to it because my @ doesn't work to it.
So thank you guys so much for joining us in the library here today. We will see you guys next week when we talk about the origins, the beginning, some say of the end of 343 Industries. We'll see you then.
The library was produced and published by JumperScape Audio. Funding was provided by our fantastic patrons on Patreon. If you enjoy the show and wish to support JumperScape's future projects or get some sweet benefits, join our Patreon at patreon.com/JumperScape or become part of this truly special community at discord.gg/JumperScape. Thank you for your listenership, and we hope you enjoyed.